For the longest time in the Five Nights at Freddy's community, out of all the stories being told, a few of them always felt off. There were a few areas that felt like we couldn't get a general understanding of what they were, and the one I'm talking about right now is the Shadow Animatronics. They first made their appearance during FNAF 2, and still to this day show up as Easter eggs. But what exactly is a Shadow Animatronic? Well, by using basic investigation methods, let's look at what we do know about them, and following the same patterns as other questions brought up by the series like Bite of 87, etc., does it get answered or expanded upon in the next title, FNAF 3? Shadow Freddy, despite his name, is actually just a purple tinted version of Withered Golden Freddy, found sitting in the back room with the other Withers. Shadow Bonnie, on the other hand, who we'll refer to as RXQ, is a blacked out version of Toy Bonnie who appears in the office floating. Another slight connection to these characters are the Paper Pals, who appear to have a Dark Freddy and Dark Bonnie, and a Smiling Child, who appears similar to Balloon Boy. While this could be a reference to JJ, another Easter egg in the game, that's not what this video is about, so we'll set that idea to the side. But with the information that we have, what could these two suits be? Well, let's actually think about what do we have two of in this game. Well, obviously, we have two Freddys, two Bonnies, two Chicas. We have two sets of animatronics here, distinguished by one side being withered animatronics and the other side being toys, which, matches up with the designs of the Shadows. We also hear throughout the phone calls and the mini games that there might have been two missing children's incidents, one occurring at the old location, where the Withers come from, and the other at this location around the time that the toy animatronics start misbehaving. So could these in some sort be physical representations of these murders? Well, we can't say for sure, but we can assume that they have something to do with these sets of animatronics. FNAF 3 should reasonably give us more clarification as to what these things are. They appear in two ways. Shadow Freddy appears in the corner, looking rotten and decayed, just teleporting there, and also appears as one of the most important characters in the Follow Me minigames, with the same design as those animatronics, now with an ear, etc., asking them to follow him into the safe room. The issue here is animatronics can't enter the safe room, and yet Shadow Freddy can, implying that whatever he is, it either is somebody that knows where the safe room is, or is a Springlock suit himself, which matches up with him appearing as a dark version of Withered Golden Freddy. These robots end up getting destroyed, attack the murderer, blah blah blah, it's the whole thing. Meanwhile, Shadow Bonnie appears as a piece needed to finish the Happiest Day minigames, but he can also appear as an entity that can enter all of the stages inside of the Happiest Day minigames. He also makes a quick cameo within Follow Me as watching people through the wall, but I don't really know how important that is. Happiest Day also includes other toy animatronics, which would be a little weird if we're talking about people from 1985 being murdered, and we also see Fredbear. And I want to take this time to remind you what defines a retcon. When pieces to a story are revealed to the player and then clarified later, this is not a retcon. When you introduce pieces of a story that can only be put together given future information because something was changed, etc., that is what constitutes a retcon. So unless we want to claim this situation as a retcon, these minigames must be referring to previously established information. The use of the toys here imply whoever these kids are in Happiest Day must have seen the toy animatronics. But the endings show us whoever these kids are also possess the FNAF 1 suits, given their heads are the ones used, both of which have their costumes laying around in this location. With this, we get into the most controversial part of this theory. The toys and the FNAF 1 animatronics. They can't be the same, can they? After all, Follow Me shows us the FNAF 1 animatronics getting destroyed. Instead of falling down that rabbit hole, I'll just leave my old video on the idea here, but don't expect it to be the best quality. TLDR, the DCI kids are the main Susie, Jeremy, Fritz, Cassidy, Gabriel, while the MCI don't really have names. Some might think that this takes away the importance of the original MCI, but I don't think that's the case, as they would still have a chance to be the characters inside of Molten Freddy, or what I believe is they hold on to William after the events of Follow Me. Moving on, before I get into a tangent, are these two the only examples of Shadow Animatronics? I think this can go either or, but the lines in UCN suggest Nightmare is also a Shadow Animatronic, given his lines of, "I am your wickedness given flesh." if there was a group of kids separate from both of these incidents that had their, own missing children incident and were forced through the nightmare experiments, as discussed in Dittophobia, I feel like that would be powerful enough to create their own being, similar to the Shadow Animatronics. I think you could also argue that Nightmare On could also fit into this description as the result of Charlie's death. The only reason why I would want this to be the case is because then we finally have an answer as to why Nightmare On keeps appearing over and over and over again inside of the more modern versions of the game. It would allow for Charlie as a character to be gone. Charlie has passed on. Henry's fire was successful, it passed everybody on. Maybe Afton is still being tortured somewhere, but overall all of them passed on. But it would allow these shadow characters, these agony beings, as suggested in Fazbear Frights, these shadows of what used to be, these ghosts of the incidents that happened here, still luring over the Fazbear name. Their story is over, but not forgotten. This feels much more satisfying than claiming that everything is somehow the Mimic or their fault. Vanessa as a character in both Ruin and Help Wanted, as well as Gregory and Cassie, don't seem to have any connection with Edwin or the Mimic story. While whether we play as Michael, Henry, or William in the first 7, that character is always tied to this overarching story that it was trying to tell. The only way that I could see this working for all of these protagonists to somehow be connected is if it really is associated with Afton or something like him is trying to bring everything back. As of the point of recording this script was written a while ago, right? I started recording it before, like, a week or so ago. It was actually the response to one of the most recent Right Toast videos. Not videos, podcast episodes, right? Conveniently, yesterday, Cyrus Quacks ended up making a video very similar to this, or he did a similar topic, he didn't do the same. So I wanted to think about some things that he did bring up in his video that I don't think work under this idea, or at least I haven't thought of how to make them work, which is the fact that Shadow Freddy as a character does seemingly act not as... he doesn't seem to help the children as much as Shadow Bonnie does. Shadow Bonnie's main purpose is to help the children. He's there when too much remnant is collected, he's there during the Happiest Day minigames, everything points towards him being connected to these children in some way. While Shadow Freddy is much more interesting because he very rarely shows up, which makes me... and it is really weird how he has death things inside of his connections on FNAF World. His power-ups are death things, and it's literally referred to as "I will eat your soul," while RXQ over here has all things to help give life, which is a very interesting aspect because Shadow Freddy has much more purple, while Shadow Bonnie is much more black. So it really makes you have to question, were these two characters meant to be in the same area at all, or if they were always intended to be separate beings, a part of separate groups. But I feel like that's a discussion for another day. But I do like those counter arguments, and it makes me have to rethink some ideas, and I might potentially explore this sort of idea again going forward, so that way I can try and see how those sorts of things match up with my current understanding of the shadows, or if he has somehow built a much stronger case for the Shadow Animatronics than I have. But I just wanted to throw this in. Sorry. I don't know, just something I thought of and wanted to talk about. Let me know what your guys' opinions are. I have a few more videos and ideas that I want to get out, so make sure to watch those. I don't say this often, but I love and appreciate all of you guys for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Matane.